Welcome back to the Ride Along channel, out here in Vassiliki once again this summer. And right now, I'm a little underpowered as you can see. I'm not really going just yet. The wind has gone cross shore, but it's not really filled in. So somewhere around 15 to 20 knots right now. Just waiting for a gust or two to hit me. I'm sure I'll get going in a moment. But while I'm cruising, I'm on a 5.6 S1 sail, Severn sail, and a 103 freestyle wave code from starboard. Yeah, a little unpowered, but I'll get going soon enough. And what I'm hoping you're joining me for today is a few more nuggets of knowledge that you can take into your own windsurfing and hopefully progress that little bit further from whatever level you're at, or quite likely I'm gonna predict, I'm gonna guess just now, whatever plateau you've hit and can't quite get past. And the nuggets of knowledge today are about tactics versus techniques. Is it important to just hammer in these techniques and think about what I'm doing with my head, shoulders, knees and toes? Or actually, can tactics play even more of a part in getting going, planing out of carved jibes, getting into the straps, whatever it is you're learning? Let's have a think about tactics in today's little session. So if you've not already seen, I've done a recent video all explaining T.T.P.P.E.E. and how that can come into our windsurfing. The equipment, the environment, your psychology or the psychological barriers, the physical barriers and physical things that happen, tactics and technique. And like I said in the intro just there, today I'm thinking tactics over technique. So right now I'm a little underpowered, and I want to get going, I want to get in the foot strap. What tactics have I got going on here? Tactic number one, I'm sailing upwind. And that's quite a key one, I think, for people to realize and just agree with, that actually 99% of the time, I'm sailing upwind. And then I'm sailing back to the beach or back to your spot. I'm still trying to sail upwind, and for some reason I'm back where I started. I never actually, or it's very unlikely, I've actually gained any ground upwind. Even as this wind is starting to hit me now, the tactical thing is to not just bear away to broad reach and try and get going. That whole action of me getting onto the plane right now, I haven't even gone across the wind. I'm actually still ever so slightly pointing upwind, still. Backing off to broad reach is a very difficult way to get planing. I kind of say that I use an analogy of a train. The wind is like a train when it hits you. And if you're close to the wind, we can ride the train, we can get on, and the train hits us gently. If you're on a broad reach, even across the wind, that train hits you, it hits you hard, and it can't be controllable. It's not easy to do. So, upwind to begin everything, and then we progress from there. On a similar line of this tactic and what direction I'm heading, I think it's worth appreciating that good windsurfers don't windsurf in a straight line. Or even in that second as I said it, the wind shifted ever so slightly, and I went up towards it ever so slightly. When I'm trying to get going, I'm wiggling that board off the wind, towards across the wind, and then as I'm trying to go for the foot straps, I need to change direction once again. Ever so slightly further downwind for the front foot strap, maybe not downwind, maybe across the wind, and ever so slightly upwind, as and when I go for the back foot strap. Even when you see good guys flying along, there's constant little adjustments. Another little analogy that I quite like is when you're driving a car on a straight line in the motorway, you don't just lock the steering wheel in one position. You're adjusting and changing, and those little movements to keep your steering wheel going, keep your car going in a straight line with your steering wheel, it's exactly the same when we're windsurfing. These little adjustments from my feet, there it is, slightly across the wind, front foot strap, back upwind, into that back strap. It's still on and off the wind, so I've changed direction, and I think for a moment or two I'm going to point the camera forwards, and you'll see that I'm wiggling a little bit. There's a bit of heel pressure as an extra gust hits me. Back upwind a bit harder, the wind's got a bit stronger. I'm enjoying this wind, I want to ride that train. I'm now bearing off the wind ever so slightly onto a reach straight across the wind, and I'm slowing down, so actually I'm going to skew up into the wind as I come off the plane. Those are the tactical changes of getting going. And that's a straight line, in inverted commas. That's one blast that is not a straight line. Waiting for the wind again, heading upwind, and I'll explain tactical things you could bring into your jibing. Whether it's trying to make it round your first carve jibe, or whether you're trying to plane out, some tactical changes can help you. First of all, the W's before you jibe. Check the wind, make sure you've got enough, you're in a gust or you're in enough power that you can use it. It's not just about to stop on you. Waves. Is there a flattish spot that I can do it in? Or do I need to do it down a bit of a ramp so I'm not slapping into the back of the next wave? What kind of water state have I got in front of me? Wind, waves, and the final one, it's kind of a safety thing really for jibing, other water users. Have I got space? Has someone fallen in front of me and I can give a nice big berth and use them as my jibe mark? Or actually, am I going to be that guy and jibe around beginners? Let's give them some space and not terrify people away. Not quite enough wind in that gust. The other tactical thing that I think is key for carve jibing is remembering that a carve jibe begins upwind. You run through your H's, head, hand, harness, hips, hooves, and then you begin to bear away to broad reach, full speed. The carve is a very small part of it. We're not trying to hack in a hairpin turn. What we're trying to do is a long, progressive, gentle turn. In fact, you could take the word carve away from a jibe, and it could well make your jibes better. Try and think about that. It's kind of a technique, but it links into the tactic, I suppose, in terms of I want you to make your jibe bigger. Rather than going around a hairpin, I want you to go around a very long arc that starts miles upwind and finishes a good long way downwind. And the technique I'm just mentioning there is try and keep the board as flat as you can. If you're not trying to carve the board will stay a bit faster, your turn will be a little bit bigger. In the gust, heading upwind once again. Other tactics for your carve jibes are the timings and adjusting those tactics depending on what's going on. When do I change my feet? When do I flip the rig? Those are tactical changes that you can make along the way. And actually, a lot of time I find it's easier to change timings than it is to change a technique. My head, shoulders, knees and toes, whatever you're doing, maybe it's ingrained and you've been doing the same thing for years, but maybe we can just change the timing a little bit. Release the rig a bit earlier, release the rig a bit later, change my feet a little bit earlier or later. And I don't think there's a set point that I can say this is when you do it. But the key thing is changing, adapting, and fiddling with your tactics until you find out what's working. Or, of course, send me a link to your video and I'll happily coach you through it. Another key tactic for jibes, or particularly duck jibing for this one, a duck jibe should be done on the entrance, on a broad reach. And I consider it a duck, then a jibe, not done at the same time. I get some wind going in a moment, I'll show you this. Flat board on the entrance, broad reach, duck, then jibe. I'd say that's a tactic of when you're ducking the rig, rather than a technique of how I duck the rig. Here comes some wind. So there you have it. It's not a full power day just now. It's going to come a little bit later. I wanted to get a little session in with you guys just before I started coaching in an hour or so, half an hour now. And hopefully the explanation mixing in with a whole bunch of clips you've seen filmed on other sessions and put on top of it, as well as a couple of little diagrams you've just seen, might make things a little bit clearer. So on your next session, what can I change tactically about the decisions I'm making, where I'm going in relation to the wind, or the timing of where things are happening, rather than thinking, okay, I need to do this with my feet or this with my hands, can we just think, let's start up wind and make some tactical changes? Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.